Hi everyone, this is Bill again with another audio video clip. Answer a few questions you might have and to give you some tips about this module that you're in right now, Module 2. First of all, you might be interested to know when your first composition will be graded. I hope to have that graded by the time you hand in your first full essay this Saturday. These one-week units make it a little more difficult for me to get the turnaround, but I hope to do so. Either way, I want you to know that the one you handed in last week was not a full essay. It wasn't weighted like a full essay. It might have been as long as one, but it gives me a baseline for your writing, allows me to give you some feedback, get you used to getting my constructive criticism, and get you started on addressing some of the issues you might have. But the weight, again, is not as heavy, so don't worry too much about that. I'll get it to you as soon as possible. Secondly, how do I ensure that I can get 100% on my discussion board posts? You definitely want to get 100% because it helps pad your grade a little bit. I have to be more careful, a little bit more thorough when I grade full-length essays, and I've never gotten 100% on an essay in my life. But these discussion boards, there's no reason why I can't simply plug in full 100% points for you if you do the following. Use correct and formal English. Don't use abbreviations, please. Full, complete sentences. Before you hit submit, make sure you've looked it over. Secondly, fully developed paragraph for your original post. Many sentences in length. Even if you don't feel like it, even if you don't think you have a lot to say, you need to practice good sentence writing, and you need to give other students in the class something to read and think about before they reply. Excuse me. Also, your replies aren't meant to be quite as long as the original, but again, be just as careful and just as focused on correct and formal English. Finally, you're probably wondering about this essay that's coming up, the response essay. First of all, I'm going to tell you that I've copied and pasted here the assignment itself from the module, and I think I've been pretty specific here. So just read this carefully, print it, maybe highlight it, have it close to your computer as you're doing your draft. Make sure that you follow my advice here. I think I've done a pretty good job. The only thing I haven't addressed here is quoting, citations, and so forth, and I'll say something about that in a minute. Finally, I want to show you a couple of introductions to previous student essays on this assignment, and that didn't go so well, and I want to point out why. I hesitate to show you an exemplar, a real good exemplar paragraph, because I don't want to give you ideas and affect the way you're going to generate your own ideas. So let me show you one that didn't work out. First of all, this one. It's short, not a very creative title, but at least there's something here in the middle. Obviously up here you need to have your personal information. You need to format the document properly, and you must look back in Module 1 at the Preparing the Documents link to get your information for that. This does correctly, in this introduction paragraph, give the title of the essay that's being responded to and the author. You need to make sure you do that in your first paragraph. But this is way too short, and it doesn't really give the reader any direction as to what the writer of this essay is going to say about his or her own response to what Robert said. So read that, and I think you'll see how it doesn't deliver. This next one, also very short. Title's not centered. Obviously, again, you still need header information over here. This one ends actually in an incomplete sentence. You can never begin a sentence with the word which unless you're asking a question. I want you to think about the introduction in this way. Start very generally and get more and more specific with each sentence, so that by this very last sentence of your first paragraph, you have a thesis that tells the reader exactly what this essay is going to focus on. This next introduction paragraph is more thorough, better written, but it's still not quite what it needs to be, and I'll point out why. Let's take a look at it. As I was going over the assignments for this week, I could not help but notice the reading assignment which had the title, How to Say Nothing in 500 Words. What was this supposed to mean? My first thought was that we're going to learn how to write lengthy papers that have no meaning. I convinced myself this was something worth learning. I was even excited for it. I came to find out that Paul Roberts had something else in mind for his essay, something 10 times more useful than meaningless words. His essay talked the talk and walked the walk with 3 great points that I picked up while reading it. This essay was very informative, straight to the point, and specific. Now, this does start general and does end more specifically. It is more developed. It does give the author's name and the title of the essay in the paragraph. So it does all those things correctly. But when we get to the end here, this last sentence does not really tell us what this writer thinks specifically. It tells us what the essay is doing. It was informative, straight to the point, and specific. Am I led to think then that the entire essay is going to prove how it was informative, straight to the point, and specific? Well, that's not the assignment. The assignment is, what do you think about what Roberts said? How does what he said jive with your experiences as a writer? So you need to say something much more specific towards the end in order to effectively respond to the assignment. So again, I don't want to confuse you. I know I'm not giving you a great example because I don't want to give you a great example on this particular assignment. You're all writing about the very same essay. So I want to see what you make of it. But I pointed out some things I don't think you should do and tried to give you a few pieces of information. Finally, if you quote this essay, or even if you heavily paraphrase certain sections, you should cite it, and you should have a works cited page at the end. So here I want to point out to you, ignore that for now, just ignore that, but I went to ezbib.com. Maybe you've used this before, ezbib.com, and I looked up information in the MLA format about how you would make an entry for a story or an essay in an anthology. And the Mercury Reader is an anthology of different essays. So this explains it, what order to put it in, and even gives an example. And I, for you, have already done this for this particular book so that you can use it and work it this way. You would have the words work cited in the middle. It does not say works cited because you're only dealing with one source. It would just be work here. Notice that the entry, it's on a separate page, and notice that the entry is double spaced below. It's not way down here. This is not bold faced. This is not larger. It's just simply double spaced and begins on the margin. If your entry, as this one will, goes more than one line, second, third, and all consecutive lines are tabbed in one. And here's the correct citation format for Paul Roberts' essay. So if within your essay you quote him or heavily paraphrase him, you need to have in-text citations that would match this entry on your last works cited page. And here's some examples. Here's an example of a quote. Roberts states that, quote, all subjects except sex are dull until somebody makes them interesting, end quote. Now, we know it's already one essay you're dealing with. There's no confusion about your source. You've mentioned Robert's name right here. So all you really need in here is the page number within parentheses with the period on the outside. Here's an example of something similar, but in your own words. Roberts states that it is up to the writer to make the subject interesting. And specifically, the specific page where that information came from is listed again inside the sentence before the period within parentheses. So try to use a couple of quotes throughout your essay and cite them correctly and add the works cited page at the end. And as we go through the semester, you'll get better and better at it. I hope this information is helpful. If you have any questions about it, please get back with me right away. You might need to listen to this more than once to catch everything. I'm sorry if I've rushed, but I want to get it off to you as soon as possible. Have a great rest of the week.